Acorn TV, proud sponsor of Just Seen It, offers hundreds of hours of British mysteries, dramas, and comedies streaming commercial-free on demand. Learn about our 30-day trial at acorn.tv/PTV. On this episode of Just Seen It, we review the period drama, Inside Llewyn Davis.
The movie to prove screenwriting teachers wrong, that you can have a great protagonist and hate him at the same time.
Based on true events, the Disney biopic, Saving Mr. Banks.
There is Disney, but is there magic?
We discuss Blue is the Warmest Color, with its star, Adele Exarchopoulos.
But sometimes I'm on the street or on the subway listening music and I'm like, we are the...
And review Ben Stiller's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
This film is such a career culmination for Ben Stiller as an actor and a director.
All right here on Just Seen It. A young singer tries navigating the Greenwich Village folk music scene in 1961.
New record's doing well?
Not so hot, I gotta be honest.
Fighting a cold winter and endless obstacles, he pushes to make a name for himself.
Hey, look, I'm happy for the gig, but who wrote this?
I did.
But he discovers he may be his own worst enemy in Inside Llewyn Davis.
Hi, I'm Liz.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sean. The Coen Brothers have a new film titled Inside Llewyn Davis. We've all just seen it. Liz.
It was wonderful. I think it's up there with Nebraska for one of the best films of the year.
I disagree.
About which part?
I did enjoy it to an extent. I do like the Coen Brothers. I wanted something more from the script. I wanted to connect more with the character.
I thought it was another triumph for the Coen Brothers. I thought it's another one of these weird movies that is just this odd journey that doesn't fit into a genre, unless maybe the genre is the genre of the Coen. The genre of the Coen, as I will now dub it. It's a little bit funny, it's a little bit sad, it's eerily dreamlike at times, and I was fascinated by the entire runtime of the film.
It's like A Serious Man, it's like A Brother Out There. It's always this one main male character who just goes through all these horrible, tortuous things. And you don't always really like him, but you're still sucked in. Like, I was sucked in. I think it's because of the culture. And there's something about watching a train wreck or watching someone just get hurt over and over again that's just so compelling.
You want to see him go on the journey, even if you're not exactly rooting for him.
Right. He was a horrible person. You know, you have this very unlikable protagonist, and there's this screenwriting trope, and it's save the cat. And you always put your protagonist in a situation where they take care of something that's weaker, and that makes the audience like it. So you're saving the cat. In this movie...
He's literally...
He doesn't really save the cat,
he constantly abandons this cat. And it's like this exercise where it's like, can I still have the audience with the character, even though it's like this character's repeatedly not saving the cat?
Nobody knew us when we were a duo. It's not like me and Mike were ever a big act. It's not a big re-education for the public. Mel? Mel!
Oscar Isaac, I thought, was pretty darn good.
He is good.
He's an up-and-coming, sort of emerging star. He was in Drive and Won't Back Down. Drive with Carey Mulligan, by the way. And here he gets his own star vehicle and does a really nice job, as a lot of male actors in lead performances do for the Coen Brothers.
There's one scene towards the end of the film where he has to audition for someone, and he has to sing this one chance song that he has to change the minds of millions with this one song. And you sit there in the theater, and he does it. He succeeds at this tremendously emotional, wonderful performance. And yes, the results may not be the way you anticipate them to be, but that's a lot of pressure for one actor to have on their shoulders.
You can relate to a lot of what he goes through because it's a lot of, I'm trying, this is what I'm passionate about, and people keep on shutting you down to the point where you're like, well, maybe I should just give up.
And even when you do the best you possibly can, there's always someone who will tell you that there's something that's not quite right about it.
They don't see a lot of money there.
They don't see a lot of green.
I like Carey Mulligan, don't get me wrong, and I think she's a good actress.
Don't worry.
Let's stop. I don't want anybody beating me up. However, I think maybe it was the character. She was such I can't say the word, but she was that.
unpleasant
She was
person.
an unpleasant person throughout the whole movie until like one little moment at the end. But she was one note throughout the whole movie. And every time she was on screen, I'm like, I know exactly what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and I don't care.
It was nice to see two actors from the Lena Dunham School of Cinema, Alex Karpovsky and Adam Driver. Adam Driver is just such a find. Whenever he has this one scene where he sings "Please, Mr. Kennedy," and it's
Please,
like
Mr. Kennedy.
the best moment of the whole film.
Yeah.
We have the soundtrack, and I play it over and over. But I thought he was great. He was a nice find for the film.
Coen regular is in this movie, John Goodman, also playing an unpleasant character.
Surprise.
Surprise. But that's the thing about this, and maybe it's just the fact that we have the Coen Brothers directing. They get these actors in these very small roles, sometimes only 2 or 3 scenes, and they come in and I think really deliver. F. Murray Abraham, in one scene, I thought was fantastic in this
amazing.
movie.
He was good, and I like John Goodman too, actually. I think John Goodman knows how to give that, there's that sort of quirky, mean-spiritedness that you kind of just giggle at.
Solo act?
Yeah, now.
Now, used to what? Work with a cat? Every time he'd play a C major, he'd puke a hairball?
So, of course, this was directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. One of the things that I appreciated was, we talked about the 1960s a little bit, the look that this picture brought. It's very 1960s, but it's very Coen Brothers 1960s. And Bruno Del Bonell, who was the DP here, I thought really brought that to life. And they don't use their regular DP, Roger Deakins, who's done so much work for them, but they have someone new, and he just seems to fill those shoes really well.
Well, the Coen Brothers seem to transcend time and space, and they always have these period films like Oh Brother Art Thou and Hudsucker Proxy, but it's always like the Coen Brothers version of these periods. So they really create a whole world into itself.
It's not one of their best, but it's perfectly acceptable for a rainy Sunday afternoon, so stream it.
What a perfect way to spend a Friday evening. See it.
I'd spend the whole weekend watching Inside Llewyn Davis. See it.
Well, it looks like our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for Inside Llewyn Davis.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers!
Our votes don't coincide.
P.L. Travers is the best-selling author of Mary Poppins, so Walt Disney asked to meet with her to discuss the film rights.
I won't have her turned into one of your silly cartoons.
Says the woman who sent a flying nanny with a talking umbrella to save the children.
But Travers struggles with the creative control of her creation in Saving Mr. Banks.
Hi, I'm Scott.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Sean. Next up is Saving Mr. Banks, about the making of the film Mary Poppins. We've all just seen it. Scott, what did you think of Saving Mr. Banks?
I thought Saving Mr. Banks is a lovely, delightful, magical crowd pleaser. Really a movie for everyone, age 9 to 90, and everyone in between.
I think that it's a beautiful film. It's well executed. And everything that is supposed to be in a film, you could tick it off the list and say, yes, 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 they did everything right, except one thing.
What's that?
They didn't give me a reason to care.
What?
They didn't give me a reason to care why the backstory of this movie. Why not the backstory of Dr. Strangelove? Why not the backstory of Manos Hands of Fate? Why the backstory of Mary Poppins? They don't give you a reason to care about the making of this movie.
The screenwriters, Kelly Marcel and Sue Smith, gave you a reason to care. Half the movie is about a backstory, about P.L. Travers, and why she was such a closed-off, stuffy, snobby, kind of unlikable person.
Travers, though?
Because she wrote Mary Poppins,
Why
that's
do I
why.
care about, why
Because
do I
she
care about
wrote
her?
Mary Poppins.
But, okay, so, you know, Tolstoy wrote great books, and Steinbeck wrote great books. Why aren't I following these
she was
authors?
so protective of Mary Poppins, and then you have somebody like, oh, I don't know, Walt Disney, who wants to make the movie.
Walt Disney
who
made a
has
lot
to
of movies.
coerce her. Right, he made a lot of movies, and there was something special about Mary Poppins that made him want to make this film.
I'll tell you what I cared about, and I think that the screenplay really creates great relationships between the characters. And what I cared about is the fact that you had an author who's an artist of her own making, meeting Walt Disney, who's an artist of his own making, and finding this strange kindred relationship between the two of them where they both find common ground. Walt Disney says, I understand where P.L. Travers is coming from. I understand why she wants to hold on to this character because I was there too at one point, and I thought the relationship between the two of them was dynamite, and that's really what propelled me through the movie.
What he said.
Well, here you are, at last. Oh, my dear gal, you can't imagine how excited I am to finally meet you.
Well, it's an honor, Mr. Disney.
Oh, Walt, now you gotta call me Walt. Mr. Disney was my old man, isn't that right, Don?
Absolutely, Walt.
What's great about Tom Hanks as Walt Disney is that he makes Walt Disney obviously a likable character, obviously very charming and hard to resist, but he is also, in this film, he is a businessman trying to make a movie, and that's what makes it grounded.
Tom Hanks' performance in this actually made me want to see a different movie about the story of Walt Disney starring Tom Hanks, which could be a lot of fun.
Ooh,
Emma
good idea.
Thompson plays P.L. Travers, who she's going to get a lot of accolades for this because
she'll
the
get nominated.
character is very the cranky British upstanding citizen that she is.
She's such a curmudgeon,
She's so cold,
prickly.
and he warms her heart. She just melts, and you melt too.
She is so annoyingly prickly at the beginning of this film that by the time she arcs, you really feel for this woman who is haunted by her past.
Exactly.
Yet fiercely wants to hold on to it. And she conveys that.
The creator of our beloved Mary.
Poppins.
Who else?
Mary Poppins. Never, ever just Mary. It's a pleasure to meet you. Fear we shan't be acquainted for very long.
Why is that?
Because these books simply do not lend themselves to chirping and prancing. No, certainly not a musical. Now, where is Mr. Disney?
This is a more complex movie for John Lee Hancock because it's kind of like The Godfather Part 2. It's more ambitious. You have the current story that takes place in the early 60s about the making of Mary Poppins, and then you have the backstory about why is P.L. Travers so uptight and difficult and fighting Disney and his filmmaking team every step of the way to make what is bound to be a classic.
Unlike
That's
The Godfather
why
Part 2, though, that in building the parallel stories is that there is a convergence of the parallel stories in Godfather 2. John Lee Hancock, and as far as I'm concerned, does an amazing job at managing the different tones associated with all of the flashback elements, which is all of her backstory, mixed with the magical world of being in a room singing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
The drawback of the film for me actually was the flashbacks. I didn't like those as much as the core element of the story. I understand why they're there. They give some insight into who P.L. Travers was and what were the ideas that inspired the Mary Poppins character, but they were also pretty heavy on the melodrama, and I didn't know that we necessarily needed it to be that heavy. But the core of the story with Walt Disney was what really charmed me and brought me into this movie.
Saving Mr. Banks is a movie for the ages and a movie for all ages. It's a newly minted American classic, one of the year's best movies. See it.
Saving Mr. Banks will make for a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Saturday afternoon on the sofa with the family. I say stream it.
You'll have a jolly holiday with Saving Mr. Banks. See it.
Our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for Saving Mr. Banks.
Cheers.
Cheers. Let's go fly a kite.
After I have a couple of spoonfuls of sugar.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Brenna, and today we're sitting with Adele Exarchopoulos, star of Blue is the Warmest Color. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
So, when did you first decide to become an actress and why?
I never really decided. When I was 8, I want to put my energy in something, and my parents too. So I started to take improvisation class, and at 12, I have the chance that a cast director came into this class and picked me for making casting. So it was naturally conscious. I was learning my takes in Subway and go to this cast. And one day I fall into this cast of The Blue. I never felt so good on a work, and I loved the human adventure and the work adventure. And the deal with my parents was if you had good marks, you can shoot.
There is no makeup or score really in this film, which makes it very raw. Were you nervous about that at all?
No, because I love the fact that it's a movie about skin and reality. So I love to transform myself to be like ugly, beautiful, and everything.
The connection between you and Leah is so real and visceral. I mean, did it ever freak you out that you were getting this close to her? Or, I mean, you know, how did you handle all that?
It's scary because I heard a lot of story where people playing together and doesn't like really each other or the feeling doesn't pass. So in this kind of relation, I don't want to first try to be friendly. I want it to be natural, and it helps because the first scene we shoot together was a sex scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when you meet someone naked, it's not the same, you know, you're vulnerable, you're yourself.
Speaking of the sex scenes, how did you prepare for them? Could you prepare for them, or were you nervous about them?
I was nervous because it was the first time I was really making so intimate scene. But we were aware that he's gonna treat this scene like the other one, like a school one, like a food one with the same time and with the same kind of improvisation. He doesn't want us to be like in a kind of choreography. He just tells us the situation. Like for me, it's my first time. I never have sex with a girl. I have no experiences. She's driving the act and dominated the love, the sex. And it was it. And after we just have to make kind of body language and it was funny because he wants us to like make evolution of the sexuality because it become more intense or more sensual or, I mean, every time are so different. And so like day after day, sometimes we're like, what position are we going to do today? And we're like, does that work? It could work. And it was funny. It was not the more difficult scene. We laugh a lot on this scene because you're nervous, so you're laughing.
Everybody always talks about the sex scenes. Do you feel that the sex scenes are starting to overshadow the rest of the message of the film?
I think, because I mean, there is nothing to say more, you know, it's just sex scene, you watching them, you can feel uncomfortable or you can be exciting or disturbing, but what can we say? It's just sex. People asking you questions about it and how different countries react because of their culture. I mean, for example, in Canada, they were really, really tolerant. And for example, here, they like it, but they're not used to, so they kind of exciting and disturbing. And so you don't really know, but yeah, I think it's too bad to focus on this.
But you feel like there is a connection between what happens before and after the sex scenes and the sex scenes, right? There's a theme that ties it all together.
Yeah, and I think he chose to shot this scene like this because for him it was like a kind of road that the viewer have to pass on to understand how much it could be like organic between two people and how much it changed you to find someone with who you have such a connection.
I read somewhere that Abdel Kashish cast you because of the way he saw you eat the first time you guys met. Is that true?
Yeah, he say this. But because I can know and see how much he loves to watch people eating, because for him he reflects so much about your personality, the way you eat. And all the time we were drinking coffee, was like, you want something to eat? And I was like, no, I'm cool. Yeah, take a piece of pie. And I was like, no, I'm cool. No, take a steak. And I was like, what? But the casting was hard because it was during 2 months, and that's cool because you desire a lot when you come back. But he was testing us because, for example, Leah was already picked, but he was asking me to make some sport for being more energetic. And also he was asking me to participate to the casting and make people pass for my own role. So I was making casting for my role.
You were like reading for her while other people would try for your part?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You put a lot of work into the big things with making this character feel very realistic with this kind of strife that somebody goes through coming out in high school. How much of it was work you put into it, and how much of it was somebody who told you how to do character traits?
That's me. I'm making this on life, and so he tell me used to keep it. But for example, we have to find small details to write them the movie and how she's growing up, feeding off all her experiences. At the beginning, she's more young, so we have a lot of freedom on this movie, but he was controlling everything. We make a lot of improvisation. He makes many takes because he wants you to lose yourself always and to be in a kind of second state. We can pass like 1 week on one scene and no one does this. And it's disturbing because we're making this scene for like 4 days and you doesn't know what's wrong, what he expects. And he's just waiting for the grace moment, the moment where you're not conscious about nothing, about the two cameras, the team, the movie. He wants you to be instinctive. So everything was special. I mean, we improvised so many scenes. You can just like let the camera roll during 1 hour. You have the freedom of the space. The two cameras was always like a second skin.
What do you feel now that the movie's out and it's been received so well?
I'm happy and proud, but I really can't wait to be involved in another movie because it's like it was a special year for me. so much happiness and light on me. And I just want to work, to make cinema and other movies, to be involved in other stories.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It was great talking to you. I wish you all the best success in the future.
Thank you, pleasure.
Salut.
Walter works in a photo-negative department at Life magazine.
For the final issue, we just received -25 from Sean O'Connell for the cover.
After he loses an important picture,
It's 25. It's not there.
Walter must travel the world and recover it.
Hey, man, where are you now?
Himalayas. I'm not gonna keep this short. I have to make oxygen choices.
He learns that life's great adventures almost never happen behind a desk in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Zoriana. Today we've got Ben Stiller's latest, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. We've all just seen it. Scott, what'd you think?
Secret Life of Walter Mitty. This is Ben Stiller's 5th movie as a director. It's his best movie yet. This is a profound, rousing, life-affirming movie. It's a movie for everyone. One of the year's best. It's deep. I love The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
It's adapted from a short story written in the 30s by James Thurber, a very well-respected novelist and short story writer. I agree with you, Scott. I think it had great themes. They were easily digestible. It was just such a simple and light story, and it never managed to be too cliche.
I loved how they modernized it and really brought it to the 21st century without losing the key elements from the short story.
Not to mention that he's a negative asset manager at Life magazine, which is going digital, and it's just, he himself and his job are such a reflection of the change of the times. It's almost a little too obvious, but for whatever reason, I never was like, oh, I never rolled my eyes.
But you see, when I was watching the movie, I didn't think for a minute that was based on a short story from 1939. It felt so current, like it was made for today.
But I loved the symbolism here, the fact that he works at Life magazine, and this movie is about living life to the fullest. And he, as a negative asset manager, is working deep down in the basement. He's seeing every iconic image that's passing through. He sees it all, but no one sees him, you know, and he's not living his life to the fullest. I loved that. That was so subtle. It wasn't overt, but it was there nevertheless.
This is Ben Stiller's 5th movie as a director, and I think he keeps getting better with each passing film. He really topped Tropic Thunder. But I have to say that Ben Stiller is underrated as an actor.
Yes.
Listen, he's very, very popular. He's made some really great movies, very, very popular films like There's Something About Mary and The Night at the Museum films. But he's great at playing this everyman. He's got like a Jimmy Stewart quality to him, but obviously much, much shorter.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a shorter Jewish version of Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, I jumped out of a helicopter yesterday into the ocean and had a shark fight.
Yeah, listen, I was mentioning before people who daydream too much, not content.
No, it was real. I really did.
Really? Then I'll put down Adrenaline Junkie. What kind of a shark? Was it like a...
Hey, Todd, I can't really talk right now. I'm on my way to a volcano.
What the...
He handles the role with maturity and talent. He's a well-respected actor.
He's a really good actor. And I think when you watch someone who is very popular try to play someone who's meek, you feel like you're watching them act. I didn't feel like I was watching him act. I really just got into his performance. Real nice guy, really just taking life by the horns and just going for it.
I think that the types of roles we are used to seeing him in are in these outrageous comedies that are hyper unrealistic, extremely over the top, and he's kind of this, you know, schlubby guy who tends to get pushed around, whether it's by Robert De Niro in Meet the Parents, or just that's
Great
sort
one.
of like the types of roles that he does.
Yeah.
But here, this is much more grounded.
He's got this depth to him that we've seen before, at least some of us have, in films like Permanent Midnight. That was a very, very serious role, and Your Friends and Neighbors, directed by Neil Abute. So he's got that depth, and I feel like as Walter Mitty, he mixes the commercial appeal that he has with the depth that not a lot of people really see that he has.
I loved that Ben Stiller also directed this movie, that he wasn't just an actor for hire. He's almost a better director than he is an actor.
I think so.
But he's just had more success on the acting front.
He knew everything to do correctly.
He knew exactly what to do.
He knew exactly what to do. He knew how to handle the scope. He knew what DP to hire. Stuart Dryburgh shoots this movie like I can't believe.
The cinematography is great.
Unbelievable.
It really is a worldwide adventure going from Iceland, the Himalayas, New York City. I mean, it absolutely feels like an accomplished piece of work.
So the film is written by Steve Conrad, whose previous credits include The Weatherman, The Promotion, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Credit goes to Conrad and to Stiller for taking this material that could have been over the top and fantastical like Forrest Gump, which it did remind me of, but they get a lot of credit, and I appreciated their restraint on keeping it as grounded as possible, but still being whimsical.
Even when they go so far as to have lavish dream sequences where he's fighting somebody in the middle of a street, flying off of cars and onto walls
Saving a
and
dog
stuff.
from a burning building!
Yeah, I mean, even all that stuff is still somehow grounded in reality.
Definitely.
Because of the coverage and all of the little things that Stiller does as a director.
I just live by the ABCs. Adventurous, brave, creative.
That's everything I want in a man. My man. Hey, my man, you still there?
Hey.
It's like Walter Mitty is the culmination of Ben Stiller's
I
career
agree.
here
It's-
on an acting and a directing level. It's his best work to date on all fronts.
The Secret is out. Walter Mitty is a rousing, life-affirming, beautiful film. It's Ben Stiller's best movie as a director. See it.
Scott, I completely agree with you. It was the surprise hit of the year. I say see it.
Beautiful, eloquent, and inspirational. Walter Mitty is for the dreamer in all of us. See it. Cheers!
To Ben
No
Stiller.
secret. Ben Stiller is a great director.
To secrets.
Were you inside, Lewin?
Yeah, and it was amazing.
If you're a hipster.
We should check in 10 years to see if it's the classic you think it's gonna be.
Aaron is the warmest.
That's an Easter egg. I don't know what that meant, though.
Acorn TV, proud sponsor of Just Seen It, offers hundreds of hours of British mysteries, dramas, and comedies streaming commercial-free on demand. Learn about our 30-day trial at acorn.tv/PTV.